begin to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules and days just to listen to this presentation and to be part of the engagement. I hope to encourage you in your various sections that you work in supporting some of your volunteers in our local community, state, and military departments to join me and others in this great tasking for sexual health awareness and especially a focus on some of the increases that we're starting to see, specifically with syphilis that's been around for hundreds of years, as well as HIV. It is impacting, our very vulnerable young population primarily, but also men and women who have either been widowed or divorced and are back in the sexual arena with new partners. We're seeing an increase in sexually transmitted infections. So despite the years of research, we have not tackled this and been able to eradicate a bacteria, which is syphilis. So I do plan not to take too much of your time, but to give you a bit of information and then answer questions at the end. So specifically, I just want to reinforce, most of us, we have known about HIV. We heard about it. Of course, the great scare back in the 80s when it first came out about AIDS immune-acquired deficiency syndrome is a progression of the HIV virus as it replicates in the body. And what this, a little bit of information on the slide tells us is that without treatment, most men and women, without any other significant comorbid conditions, will live 9 to 11 years. However, with antiretroviral treatment, men and women live 20, 30 plus healthy, productive lives, and that's what we want to, if not prevent, then manage appropriately and get the word out there that regular screening, regular testing improves lives. Syphilis, on the other hand, is a bacterium. So unlike the virus that's been very difficult for us to manage because it can change its attack on the immune system, syphilis is a Treponema pallidum spirochete that over the years has been misdiagnosed because it is known as a master mimicker or the great imitator. It can look as several of our dermatologic conditions. I have seen it myself and at times thought it was very consistent with an eczematous lesion or even psoriasis on a couple of my patients. And the protocol, if you cannot scrape it or biopsy it, fortunately, we have the advantage of medical lab work, blood testing, and pathology reports. On the samples we get, the blood tests with the RPR and the VRL are able to accurately see the spirochetes so that we can treat them. Now, these ulcers or lesions can present on the genitals, on the face, on our oral surfaces, on the rectum, and as you can see from this young lady here, caused quite a lot of disfigurement hundreds of years ago for men and women. One of the Pope's sons was said to have syphilis, and it disfigured his face. He had started as a very handsome young man, so the morbidity is incredibly important. It can also be as simple as spots on the hands and the feet. That's one of the signs of secondary syphilis that can be seen in the clinic. As it progresses throughout the body into tertiary and neurosyphilis, it can impact vision with ocular syphilis and actually cause brain damage or fetal demise, if not stillbirth and congenital cognitive delays for children born to mothers that are positive for stillbirth. The contact is also, of course, directly with the lesions, but vaginal and seminal fluids can also share this bacterium between men and women. Unfortunately, the very tortuous treatments for hundreds of years were often as dangerous as syphilis itself, with mercury and arsenic poisoning, or men and women being instrumented to remove the syphilis and actually causing profuse bleeding. We in this nation owe a great debt to the men, the notorious Tuskegee Institute experiments. Though very tragic for many of these men and their families, because of the lack of patient education and awareness. Some of these African American men suffered from the condition, but what we did learn to our great benefit is penicillin is curative, and it is still used today, and this was 80, 90 years ago. Now, I wanted a couple of pictures just to make it a little more palatable to take a look at syphilis and HIV rather than the wide variety of pictures you can get online in the various books about the lesions and from the very syphilitic conditions compared to the cancers that the HIV variant can cause. But this just shows us under electron microscope, the twirling spirochete on your right, my left, the syphilis bacterium compared to the HIV virus attacking a healthy cell. Additionally, some information that I was gathering for this presentation is, well, where are we? What is our current status? Unfortunately, the numbers are rising. We had over almost 28,000 cases of syphilis increase from 2015 to 2016. So that's almost an 18% increase. And then for our new HIV cases, almost 38,000 new cases of HIV. Worldwide, we have 1 million women that have tested pregnant or tested positive who are pregnant for syphilis. And then just in the United States, we have over 1 million men and women who are living with the HIV virus. The statistics when it comes to gender and sex do not favor black men who have sex with men and are not using any form of contraception because their risk is 10 times higher than black men who have sex with women. And then overall, when it comes to just the gender discrepancies, men have a 10 times higher risk of syphilis contraction compared to women. Slide that I wanted to show you just a kind of picture, piece of the pie like we'll often see, putting it in perspective. For primary and secondary syphilis, the distribution of the cases, what we see. And as you notice that nice pretty blue, that's over half of our cases of syphilis are with men who have sex with men only. So that is a very important population that we need to target for awareness and education and care and counseling and screening. Compare that, men who have sex with men only, to men who have sex with women only, less than a quarter, only 14%. And then women, we're down to 11% of the cases of primary and secondary syphilis. So this is a great bit of information so that when we're talking to our patients, when we're sharing with our colleagues and our peers, we're getting the word out to the right demographics. Talking, communication, that's where it is. We have to make sure that our receivers are hearing what we're putting out for them. And so what we have done is went through social media. We have a Facebook page, Twitter, and Instagram. We share information on websites and blogs and the body.com. We want our patients to have access not only to what we can share with them in an office visit or the outreach vans or like some of you in our care communities and our clinics, but at home, in the privacy of just online access to relevant, up-to-date information to make this applicable to all of us. What I will say sometimes to my patients who come in with their head down or say they're embarrassed to get tested is simply, why would you not get tested? Your health is important, and we need to acknowledge this. Sexual health is a part of health. And the other, just one of the many posters out there, but I really appreciate, just hands and touch. The importance of that, is incredible psychologically and for healing. But just to remember, we are fighting conditions, not our patients, not one another, not the people with these conditions, so that we can keep humanity at the base of all we do. I was pretty impressed with a lot of the history behind syphilis. Syphilis being much, much older, of course, than the HIV virus, and back to the Renaissance time when, men were going off to war, and there are good stories about the French and Italian wars fighting for the good of Rome, and soldiers were dying from syphilis and a great deal of agony and pain. And Desiderius Erasmus was a very famous Renaissance scholar, actually helped edit some of the New Testament and was a humanist. And so a quote that is attributed to him, very specific about the great dismay of syphilis, was this: "If I were asked which is the most destructive of all diseases, I should unhesitatingly reply, it is that which for some years has been raging with impunity. What contagion does thus invade the whole body, so much resists medical art, becomes inoculated so readily, and so cruelly tortures the patient?" Syphilis. Present hundreds of years ago, and unfortunately it is present and increasing today. I have included on the next couple of slides for you some of the various sites that I went to, the articles that I read, just to gather information. Information and knowledge is power, and as we read about it, as we share it with one another, we're going to encourage and empower each of us to learn about and to share and to encourage, to talk and to treat, and then manage. HIV is a virus that we managed for many years, but it is doable. One other just quick plug for talking is the awareness that PrEP, there is a pre-exposure prophylactic medication that many men and women, if we can get them engaged, we can prevent until we have a viable vaccine for HIV. We can have those most at risk, and definitely that is, from our statistics, our men who have sex with men. We can prevent them from contracting HIV. And always, of course, barrier protections need to be in place, but that's where, we have these open, honest discussions. So, again, I thank you so much for your time, for being here. I'm available for any questions, and then I would be happy, if needed, to come out to your sites and do some additional talks.